So, good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar on the Invisible Shield DMARC protection for your emails. Some of you know me, but for those that don't, my name's Nathan, and I'm hosting the session today. Just before we get started, a quick note, the session is being recorded. A copy of the recordings and slides and any additional resources will be shared with all registered participants following the webinar. Today's webinar is a brief fireside chat style presentation. It's followed by a demo and then a Q&A session at the end. So feel free as the webinar goes along to drop any questions into the chat so that we have some interaction and some live questions at the end. And yeah, mostly thank you for joining us today. I know time is always precious, and we're excited to have you here and hope you find the session informative and valuable. So with that, we will get started. Brief welcome. Obviously, I've said my name's Nathan. I'm the head of sales here at Oryx Align. For those that don't know me, 7 years plus Oryx Align, 20 years in managed service. I've gone from being an IT technician through to sales and account management. And yeah, that's me. Passionate about cyber and improving cyber posture across businesses of all shapes and sizes. Today, I'm really happy to be joined by Elcho from Easy DMARC. Morning, Elcho.
Hi, nice to be here.
Good, thank you. Elcho, do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself? I know it says on there, but
yes, let me take over from here. Yeah, so my name is Elcho Hofstee. I'm based in the Netherlands, Global Director Sales for Easy DMARC. I work now for Easy DMARC for about 3.5 years, but I'm working in IT and sales related jobs for more than 20 years. And the majority of that time, about 15 years out of those 20, I've been or selling to MSPs or I worked for an MSP. So I dare to say I'm quite familiar with the MSP model. Today we're going to speak about Easy DMARC, and then I'm talking about our product, Easy DMARC, not so much about the company. That's not that important, I think. But the product could be a very good help for you to get your domain protected, and I think that's where what we should discuss today.
Brilliant, thanks, Elcho. So you've posed us the first question straight away, which is and 4 years ago I would have even asked this question, but I'm very familiar with you guys now. So who are Easy DMARC?
Yeah, so Easy DMARC is a company. We exist since 2018, and we have 3 offices in the Netherlands, US, and Armenia. So we have worldwide presence. We sell to over 130 countries worldwide, and we protect more than 200,000 domains in the meantime. And what does that exactly mean? That we protect them? It means that we protect domains from email spoofing, but I will go into that later on. And we're compliant with a lot of the industry standards like SOC 2, GDPR, and a few others, as you can see on the sheet. And specifically, our support has outstanding scores on G2 and a few other scoring websites.
Brilliant, thank you. And I suppose one of the main questions here, and it's one that I even get asked still, is what is DMARC? And in counter to that, why does it matter?
Yeah, it matters a lot. And let me start with telling you what it actually stands for. So DMARC stands for DMARC-based messaging, domain-based messaging, authentication, reporting, and conformance. That means that if you think about email security, you probably think quite soon about incoming emails and that you need to protect yourself against phishing and that kind of stuff. Well, phishing is very much related to DMARC. However, we are not protecting against incoming email. We are protecting your domain that you use to send out email. So we are protecting your outgoing email so that the receiver of your email can be certain that it's you and not someone else abusing your domain. Without DMARC setup, it's very simple to do what they call email spoofing. So that would mean I have my email address is elcho@easydmark.com. It's super easy. If that domain easydmark.com would not be protected by DMARC, it's very easy to send an email that for the receiver looks like it's really coming from me, but it's actually coming from someone abusing me. And that is a quite common way of sending out phishing emails. So that's why it is extremely important to set up DMARC. So it protects against phishing and spoofing, but funny enough, there's a very nice side effect nowadays. It also helps you to get your email delivered. So it's not only a security measure, it also helps you to get a higher chance to get your email into the inbox and not in the spam folder, or even worse, that it will be rejected. Some regulatory compliance are also nowadays depending on it. So if you are PCI DSS compliant, for example, you will have to set up DMARC as well. And it can really save you from a lot of brand damage, and in most cases a lot of financial pain as well. Imagine that you're sending out invoices over email, and imagine that someone is sending out invoices that look like yours. They're sent from your domain, so your customer will be paying those, and in the end, it's not going into your bank account, but into the hacker's bank account. Well, that's the kind of damage you can protect yourself against with setting up DMARC. I hope that explains it a bit, Nathan.
It definitely does, and it's you're right in what you said at the beginning. When people think of email security, I think the natural thing is to think about email coming in rather than the email that you're sending out, because you think, well, I'm fine, I'm secure, I'm just sending what I know I'm sending. But I think everyone has seen emails from these spoofing emails, phishing emails, when they say they're me but they're not me, and it's that protection against that which is really important. And for companies that send a lot of email, that do campaigns, etc., through email, it's vital that they have this in place to ensure the email deliverability, to protect their brand, to, you know, it's those sort of things that you know, are just a missing piece, really. So it's really good today that we're highlighting it and covering, you know, the first of what does it mean. But I suppose when you get onto that, it kind of sets us up nicely for the next question, which, yeah, we've got the what does it mean, and now there's a brief understanding of what DMARC is, but what does it mean for a business?
Yeah, that's a good question. Actually, it's way more important than a lot of people think. So let me start with the problem that we're trying to attack with setting up DMARC. The problem is that about 93% of all successful cyber attacks start with an email. Think about phishing emails where you click on a link, or one of your employees clicks on a link, and the trouble starts. Something is installed on the laptop and they get access to the full network or something like that. Or think about the example I gave earlier, that someone is sending out invoices that are actually not coming from you, but from somewhere else, or vice versa. You are receiving an invoice where you think it's coming from your vendor, but in the end, it's not coming from him. So many options, and DMARC can really help against that. The other problem, as already mentioned, it really helps in email deliverability. At the moment of all worldwide sent emails, 85% of those emails land in spam. That's not because we're only sending legitimate emails. That's of course also because a lot of emails are not legitimate, and therefore 85% of the emails nowadays land in spam. So that also means that if your email does not end up in the inbox, but in the spam folder, it gives you a branding problem. And why do I say this? Well, think about your marketing, or maybe better example, your sales guy talking on the phone to a prospect. Then he says, well, I will send you more information, and that information never reaches the inbox. That means that most likely that potential customer will never become your customer, because he thinks that you're not interested and you're not coming up with the promise that you're sending some more details. So this is why it can become a branding problem as well, which yeah, makes it uh, a double problem basically. So first of all, if you're not having DMARC, you have a security problem. But the second problem that can happen is that you also will get longer term a branding problem, because you're not as reliable in your promises as you should be, because a lot of your emails will never be received. I hope that answers it a bit, Nathan.
It definitely does, and it does outline the two, probably two main layers to the problem. I'm sure there's many others that people could probably think of, but definitely the main layers, and those numbers there are, yeah, really high. I was even surprised to see nearly 85% of emails land in spam. Yes, there is a lot of spam out there, and we're all susceptible to that. But I suppose to counter that, people are putting in stronger defensives for spam, stricter rules to make sure they're not getting to the mailbox. So if you're not doing the right things to make sure your email is landing in the mailbox, you are far more likely to be hitting spam folders. And that's only going to increase as spam filters get more intelligent, the use of AI, etc., etc. If you're not doing the basics, you're going to be expecting your email to be landing in spam, and that is definitely a brand problem. And yeah, both of us work in sales, and I know the importance of our salespeople and their emails landing and the impression that gives. So it's definitely something that we take seriously, and we know that others should as well. So we've outlined what DMARC is as a concept, what the problem is, and for every problem, we have to ask the question: is what can a business do to mitigate against it? And obviously, this is where we've partnered with Easy DMARC to come up with the solution.
Yeah, well, my first answer would be on this one, to call Oryx a line, and they are more than happy to help you out. But to go a little bit more into the technical details of what your MSP will do, let me try to explain a bit how this works. So DMARC is something you announce in DNS, and DNS is sort of the phone book of internet. It connects a domain name to an IP and a few more things. But it's also the place where you announce that your domain is protected with DMARC. And that way, a receiving email server can see, oh, this is this domain that I now receive an email from is protected by DMARC, and they know how to handle it, because that's basically the instruction you give to the receiving email server of what to do, what kind of checks to do to make sure that this email is coming from the person he's claiming to be. There are two authentication protocols used by DMARC called DKIM and SPF. Both need to be configured for every source. And a source, you need to think about Office 365. That's a source that people maybe use to send out emails, or maybe you are using Google Mail or Google Workspace, I should say, or you're using SendGrid as a marketing tool. Well, then each of those sources, or maybe your CRM system can also send out emails. So for all of those sources, SPF and DKIM needs to be configured to make sure that a DMARC check can be done to be sure that the email is really coming from the person he's claiming to be. So who should do this? Well, actually, every company that is sending out emails from its own domain should be protected by DMARC. Currently, the last statistics that I've seen is that 63% of SMBs experienced last year a phishing attack, which sort of shows how important it is to set up DMARC, because then at least those phishing attacks can no longer come from the domain that you are protecting. The last thing that might be good to say is that DMARC tells the receiving email server what to do. So the receiving email server will do a check on DKIM and SPF. If one of those passes the check, then it's a DMARC compliant email. It means that the email is indeed coming from the person who is from the domain server that it's claiming to come from. And then based on the policy that is set, and the policy can be none, quarantine, or reject, the receiving email server decides what to do. So let's say that the receiving email server receives an email from your domain. The policy is set to none, DKIM and SPF fail, then still it will accept the email, because only when you move it to reject, it means that if DKIM and SPF fail, that it will reject the email. So it's super important to get a bit of support to really understand how to do this. And the reason for that is that if you're not setting it up correctly, it will mean that also your legitimate emails will be going into the spam folder, or even worse, will be rejected. So it's super important to reach out to Oryx Align and ask them for help before you start setting this up, because it can be quite complicated, to be honest, and that's why it's important that it's done by people that really know what they're doing. And maybe
Thanks,
we can go.
Elke. No,
Yeah.
that's good. Yeah, and just on that, I think the bit that is important is you need it on every domain that you want to send email from.
Yes.
So some companies have multiple domains and sometimes forget that you've got to do it on every single one. And the other bit too, and I know the next slide we'll talk through the kind of journey, which is how you implement this in a safe way. But I think the bit that people forget is how many sources they potentially send email from. As a business grows, as they expand, new tools get implemented. Marketing team put in one tool that's sending out marketing emails. Sales team are doing something else. Your service team, customer service, they want to send emails. They've got their tool. So you end up with this whole technology stack, which could all send emails as your domain, and you want them to 100%, you want them to, but you need to make sure you've got all the relevant records in place for all of those to say these are the trusted sources. If you do that wrong, you start blocking your legitimate email, and that gets flagged as spam. But if you do it right, then you are protecting anyone from faking your domain and sending. So nicely moves us on, as I said, to the DMARC journey. And this bit I was really impressed with is just the way that it can get implemented in stages to mean you haven't got to worry about that massive, oh my God, I've put this in and all my email's going to stop, or what impact is it? So sure, Elche, talk us through the journey.
Yeah. So the DMARC journey, as already mentioned, there are three policies that DMARC can have. None, which means even if SPF and DKIM fail, the email server should still accept the email. Quarantine, which means bring it to spam if SPF and DKIM fail, or reject, which means the email should be rejected. Well, your question could be, why do not immediately move to reject? Well, the whole thing is that when you set it up, you might not know all your email sources. What we see in many cases is that people first tell us, oh, I only have, let's say, Office 365 that sends out emails and my CRM system, just as an example. And they're not thinking about that the marketing department is sending out a newsletter bi-weekly, and they use SendGrid for that. So if you immediately move to reject, you set up SPF and DKIM for Office 365 and your CRM system, and then you immediately move to reject, then you will see that your SendGrid emails, so all your newsletters, will no longer receive the email box of the receiver. So this is why it's super important to always start a DMARC journey with a non-policy, which gives you the visibility. So you learn to understand which sources are used. And that's why we always recommend to be at least 1 month in the visibility phase. And only then you can move to deliverability, to the quarantine phase, which already helps your deliverability. Because if you're in the quarantine or reject phase, it improves a little bit your deliverability. I can never give you a guarantee that all your emails will go into the inbox. There's a lot more to do, but it will definitely help to improve your email deliverability. And once you've passed that stage, you can later on, if you see that there are no sources added to the system anymore, you can move to security, which is the reject stage. Then you're fully protected. Emails that do not pass an SPF and DKIM check will automatically be rejected, and you're fully protected. However, you still need that visibility, because your marketing department or your HR department might suddenly start up a new IT system which starts to send out emails as well, and then you want to be alerted or something like that. But we'll come to this topic in a later stage as well.
Yeah, no, thank you. That's really good. And I think one thing I probably got wrong when it seems simple. You know, that's the thing that I got wrong when I first looked at the DMARC journey. It seems so simple to put in place of none, quarantine, reject, it's changing in records. But it does set us up well for challenges. What challenges will I face in implementation of DMARC? And I've learned a lot as we've gone through this journey. And yeah, this is the challenge. So Eljo.
Yes. What we see is that 70% of organizations that are trying to set up DMARC by themselves fail. So 70%, that's a massive amount. And why is that? Because most of the companies we work with are not aware which sources they actually are really sending emails from. So first thing to do is to get a tooling to get visibility on which sources you actually use. And that's exactly where we come in. The other thing that we see quite often in implementations is that people start to set up a DMARC record, then they think they're protected, but they never move to a reject policy, which means that even if SPF and DKIM fail, so the authentication clearly states that this email is not coming from the domain that it's claiming to come from, still the email will be accepted. And what we see, because we constantly monitor what's happening worldwide with the most used domains, we see currently that still 68.2% of all global active domains are still in the monitoring stage, which is a tremendous amount of domains. And then we're really talking about actively used domains. So those are all not protected, which means they can be easily abused by someone by sending out emails from that domain.
And for me, it's that bottom one, which is the one where people get caught out. They think they've done it. They think they've implemented DMARC by setting the record within their DNS, but they've set it to that P none. And then they forget. They just go, yeah, we ticked the box, we did the DMARC stamp, we've done it. But effectively, as you're saying, it's done nothing. There's no enforcement on it. There's no checks. If it fails SPF, it still carries on. So and that visibility piece that you give is huge, because there are so lots of tools that send email, and you need to know all of them before you can fully implement this. What we did for everyone that registered for the webinar, we quickly did a DKIM check on everyone. So for those that attended, this is the how things are set on the domains of the people that registered. So Eljo, what's your thoughts on this? Quite common?
Yes, quite common, to be honest. What we noticed is that 22% of the people today in the call, they don't have a policy. 44% does have a policy, but the policy is set to none, and only 34% is on a reject policy. And that actually aligns pretty much with what we see worldwide. So I'm not in shock in that sense, but it also shows that still 66%, and I think the number was 68. Yeah, 68% worldwide is still on a non-policy or no policy. Well, here in the call we have 66 percent of the people, so it very much aligns with what we see worldwide.
Yeah, so the figures do stack up really, and it just shows that there are configurations to make and improvements to make sure that we're in a good place. And there was actually, I've got a question for the Q&A at the end, because there was someone who actually did fall into the reject status, and they were questioning why they might still need a solution for it. But we'll cover that at the end, because it is a really good question. So moving on to, is this widely adopted? And are there any compliance factors that we need to consider?
Yes, well, what we see, we did a bit earlier this year. We went through over 1.8 million domains, and we figured out worldwide, and those are the most used domains worldwide. 53% of them still do not have a DMARC record, so completely not protected, and there's even no visibility. 47% do have a record. However, and that is a significant improvement compared to 23 when we did a similar research, because in 2023 it was still 29%, 29.1 to be precise. So that's a huge improvement of the situation. However, only 7.7% of the 1.8 million domains are really configured with P equals reject, so the reject policy. So only 7.7% of the 8.1 million most used domains are protected with a reject policy, which so that it shows there's still a huge amount of work to do. But as you can see, compared to 2023, there is already it's already a huge step upwards.
So yeah, you can see it's getting traction, which is good. That's a positive, definitely. But there is still, your last conclusion, there is definitely still some distance to go so that we get full protection across all valid domains to give protection to everyone. The Easy DMARC adoption report you sent out this year, I obviously get those every year. They're really good, and I know that if people are interested in that, then they can just reach out and I can supply copies to them. And then from a compliance point, I'm sure compliance is getting on this, but I'll let you cover it.
Yes, for sure. Well, I think the most important part to mention here is that, and I don't know if anyone in the audience is PCI DSS or has to be PCI DSS compliant. So that's the sort of the standard for the payment, the card payment industry. And if you are PCI DSS compliant in the new regulation, which became active in April this year, April 25, it means that you have to send out emails from a DMARC protected domain. So I think, yeah, for those people, it's important to understand. what is maybe a good number to mention, because of course there's a cost to set up DMARC, but the cost is actually extremely limited. And if you see that 4.88 no, I should say it correctly. The average cost of a data breach, and a data breach, as mentioned earlier, 93% of the hack attacks start with a phishing or an email attack. The average data breach is costing a company 4.88 million. So yeah, there's a huge risk on a high cost, and there's a very limited amount of money actually involved to secure you against one of those risks that can bring you to a data breach. And every year that average data breach number is increasing. From 23 to 24, the increase was 10%.
And I think one thing I always take away from this is PCI DSS. I know we have clients that have to comply with it. It's quite a strict regulation and compliance because you're accepting card payments over the internet, etc. And generally what I see happen is regulation that gets put onto that, it happens earlier than other things. So I wouldn't be surprised if DMARC legislation came into play with your Cyber Essentials Plus, Cyber Essentials, your normal regulation, ISO 27001, all of those sorts of regulations that people work towards. I think this is something that's coming. So people need to start thinking about it and get ahead of it before it becomes a definitive requirement within whatever regulation they go against. There's so many, depending on the industry that people are in.
Yeah, that's also our prediction, that it will become more and more sort of have to, and it will also be adopted in all kinds of compliance standards. And what is also important to understand, Nathan, actually already in 24, Google and Yahoo started to look at people that send, or domains that send out what they call bulk senders, so larger email volume senders. For those ones, they already made it mandatory to have a DMARC record, because otherwise they automatically move those emails into the spam folder. So also from an email deliverability perspective, it's becoming more and more mandatory.
Yeah, so I know the big players, like you mentioned, Google, Yahoo, Microsoft, they're all on this. They're all aware of it. They're forcing the compliance, I suppose, as much as they can. From a technology standpoint, until it does become a regulation against compliance, where there will be potentially fines, etc., linked to it if you're found to be bulk sending and not have this in place. So it's definitely something people need to be considering. So, Aljo, I'm going to hand over to you now to a demo. And give us a quick whirlwind of Easy DMARC and what it does.
If you can stop sharing, then I can take over. Yes, thank you. No, I'm now not sharing the right one. Sorry, my bad. This is the screen I wanted to share. Yeah, I'm now sharing it. So if you log into our platform, this is what you will see. In this case, there are only 3 domains set up. One of them is in quarantine, one of them is on reject, and one of them doesn't have a record yet. But what is interesting to see, and you can do this as well, you can scan a domain, and because it's all publicly available information, this is not something which is illegal to do or something like that. But let's say that you own a company called bob.com, and you want to see if your domain is protected. Well, then you can do a check. In this case, you get a 0 out of 10 score, so that's not a good sign. And why is that? Because SPF hasn't been set up, there's no DMARC record at all, And there's also not an authentication based on DKIM. So this is a clear indication that this is a huge risk and there's work to do. How should it look like in a good situation? Well, you won't be surprised that the easydmarc.com domain is protected with DMARC. So what you can see here, you can see that a DMARC record is set up. And again, this is information that we get from the DNS. You can see that the policy is on reject. So that means that if SPF and DKIM both fail, and you can see that an SPF and DKIM records have been set up as well. If both of them fail, the email should be rejected by the email server that receives an email. So what does Oryx Align exactly do when they help you setting up DMARC? Well, what they will do, they will first set it up in such a way that you get into the monitoring mode. So policy is none, nothing happens, but they start to monitor the email behavior from your domain. And based on that, we will be able to see patterns, and we will be able to see how many emails you're sending. Don't be afraid. No one has access to subjects or emails. It's not about the content. It's all about the metadata around the email. So they will be able to see the traffic of your domain, and they will be able to see which domains are non-compliant. And non-compliant emails means it's a legitimate source, but SPF and DKIM still need to be configured. So for Oryx Align, it's an easy way to see which which sources still need to be configured. In this example, SendGrid, they can check the wheel and they know exactly what to do. I won't go into too much technical detail for now. If you're interested to really understand that, feel free to reach out to Nathan. But what they will also be able to see, and that's important to know, is the email addresses that were trying to abuse your domain. And almost everybody that starts within our environment, they believe that they don't have that many threats, and almost everybody is super surprised how many times people were trying to impersonate their email domain. So you will see in your case as well, I'm pretty sure about that, that even if you're a small bakery or I don't know what kind of shop, not really into IT, that still a lot of people are trying to impersonate your domain. So it's important to protect you against that. I think for now, this gives sort of a high over what this tooling can do, but they can also set up alerts for you so that if there's a peak in the amount of impersonations, that Oryx Align will receive an alert and all kinds of other things. But I think that goes a bit too deep into details for now. Did this answer it, Nathan?
It does, and it's a really good high level to show the platform and what we're looking for, and why I suppose you need that constant monitoring in place. So thank you for the quick overview. I just need to jump back to here and share. And we should be sharing back from me now, and that has moved us nicely into the Q&A section. So I've had some questions come in, and one of them, like I said, was straight away from someone who had the reject in place, and it's a really valid question. I do like it. Is why do I have to have monitoring service? Once I've set this up, isn't it just fine to leave it alone?
There's a few ways to answer this one, but no, it's not fine to leave it alone, is my first answer. First of all, you want to get an idea of the amount of impersonations, because if you suddenly see a spike in the people that are threatening you, normally it's just a way how they're trying to get in. So it can be an early warning as well to see if there might be other ways they're trying to get into your systems as well. So that's a valid reason to continue after you initially set up the system. The second way to answer this question is to also look at shadow IT. Your HR department or your marketing department might suddenly start with a new tool, and then it's good that there's at least someone aware that all of those emails are landing into spam or even rejected, depending on the policy. So because of that, it's very good to get visibility. And but this third answer might go a bit too much into technical details. In some cases, SPF can also not be configured in an easy way, and then you need hosted SPF. In that case, yeah, the hosting is a constant, so you need our system for that as well. But I will not go too much into that more
Yeah.
technical part of the answer. I think the more business reasons are, hey, you want to be aware of the amount of impersonations that are happening, and you want also to be aware if shadow IT is set up or not.
Yeah, if there's changes that you just didn't know about,
Yes.
and yeah, people setting it up might just think it's fine, but actually it's not. So, yeah, I thought that's a really good question, and it did make me think definitely of, you know, why do you need this continuation? But you are right. The next one, we've kind of covered this. This was something that got sent in for, and someone that obviously knows a little bit about it. They've said, how do you safely move from none, P none, to a P reject without disrupting legitimate email?
Without disrupting legitimate email. Yeah, okay. Well, the most important thing is that you should be at least 1 month in P equals none phase. It's the monitoring phase. That way, you can clearly discover which sources are not set up properly, and you have time to configure those. Sometimes it might be even better to do to keep that to continue that way for a second month to make sure that not anything is added and that everything works correctly. And only when you see that there are no non-compliant new emails popping up in the system anymore, that's the moment that you can safely move to quarantine and later on to reject, while being sure that all your legitimate emails are still being delivered.
And I totally agree with that. I know I actually spoke with our delivery team on how we do the installations when we're setting this up for clients, and they adopt the approach straight away of it's none, it's monitored for a month. Only then will they make a call whether they will change it or not. And sometimes they will even stay at none for a second month to make sure and to make any changes that need to happen. We deem a success criteria around every project and every deliverable to our clients. And for the implementation of this service, our success criteria is to have it in reject mode 6 months after we start. So you can see it can take a long time to get to that reject mode because we want to do it safe. We want to make sure that legitimate email keeps going, keeps sending, keeps receiving, etc., etc. So it's definitely not a project that you can rush, I think is probably the best way of putting it. And I think that's again where people have failed with implementations, where they've rushed it and gone too quick and had impacts on email, or gone too quick and just left it as none and thought they've done something.
Correct. Yeah.
In that, I've actually answered the other question that popped up there, which was any other common mistakes that organizations make. I mean, I've just given my view, Joe, but you've definitely seen this a lot more than me. What other common mistakes do you see? I mean, the P none is definitely one, probably going too quick is another. What are other things that people...
No, for sure. I think moving too quickly to reject, I think that's the most common mistake. Other mistakes that I hear quite often is that people think, oh, now that I'm on a reject policy, all my emails automatically land into the inbox. Unfortunately, that's not the case. It is true that it will help your deliverability, but it doesn't mean that if you're spamming a lot, yeah, then people will still be rating your domain as a spamming domain, and your emails will in the end will end up in the spam folder. So a lot of people think, oh, I only have to set up DMARC and then my emails are ending up in the inbox. No, unfortunately, that's not the case. The other way around is true. It does help to improve your email deliverability, so the chance that your emails are ending up in the inbox, but it's not the only thing you need to do.
Yeah, and there's also measures that you can never control. Everyone's got their own spam filters, everyone's got their own way of figuring them. There's so many blacklists out there, etc. As you mentioned, domain reputation. There's so much else out there that you can't guarantee deliverability. If you could, everyone would use it.
True.
Everyone would sign up straight away, because we all want our emails to deliver and be the most important one that everyone gets. But we can't guarantee that. You're right, but it's that layer of improvement, that extra part that will put you in a better place for deliverability, as long as you are doing the other things right.
Correct.
That is the questions that we've had in. I'm just double checking that I've covered them all. I have. So we are very close to the end. Just going to highlight the next webinar that RX Align are doing. It's coming up fast, the 11th of November. We have a webinar on stay ahead of the threat, secure your Office 365 environment. So again, we're keeping our cyber theme. This is about your protection for Office 365 and how Microsoft is not enough. You need to do more. So it's a good session. We actually held a cyber business breakfast on this in London a couple of weeks ago, really well attended. So there is a QR code. Obviously, deck's going to be shared if people want to register. Scan the QR code, takes you straight to the registration page. I have got one extra to add to this. It was very last minute. I only got confirmation this morning. Some people will know we run our cyber business breakfast events in London. We do them quarterly, and we always get speakers in to talk about cyber in the different layers. And our event for February got confirmed this morning. So we will share details, but it's an exciting one. It's Thursday, 26th of February, and we are doing it in partnership with the cyber division from the Metropolitan Police. The session that they're going to do is going to really uncover real life cybercrime, what they see day to day, how it impacts SMEs. It's a really interesting session because it's the truth. It's what they see and what they deal with every day, and how people can position themselves. So definitely excited to host that one. And February, it seems a long way off, but it's not. It's November next week, so that's crazy. Next steps. As Elcho mentioned, join the webinar today. There is a free report that you can get on your current DMARC status. If you're interested in getting your free report, just drop me an email. My email address is on screen. It'll be shared, so you've all got it anyway, and I can get the report run. I can send it back to you. Another question we also get is obviously pricing, etc. What I'll do for anyone that requests the report, when we send the report through, we will send through pricing at the same time. So there's nothing hidden. It's straight away. This is your monthly costs. This is your setup costs, and this is it going on. But as Eljo mentioned, the price is surprisingly low, definitely compared to other things we've seen that do similar. So, and finally, thank you. First of all, Eljo, thank you to yourself. Thanks for joining me today, and for all your knowledge on DMARC. And
well, thanks for having me here, and yeah, it was a pleasure to do.
Thank you. And yeah, just everyone for joining. Like I said at the start of the call, I know what it's like, Teams meetings, Zoom meetings, etc., etc. It's hard to squeeze these things in, so we do like doing them. We do find them informative. We'll share the recording. We will break the video up and share things on LinkedIn, etc. as well. So lots of good content, and hope you all found it useful. And yeah, just thank you very much for your time. And any questions, you've got my email address, reach out and we're happy to help.